Once upon a time, in the wealthy town of Umala, there lived a stunning woman named Ayanda. Her beauty turned heads and her charm could melt hearts, but her heart was not one easily given. She had one goal: marry into wealth, and she succeeded. She married Jumo, the only son of a late billionaire. After his father passed, Jumo inherited everything: the businesses, the estates, the power. He was kind, soft-spoken, and deeply in love with Ayanda. But Ayanda didn't love Jumo, not even a little. She had married him for one thing: his money. And although Jumo sensed it deep in his heart, he chose to ignore the truth. There was something about Ayanda that pulled him in like a tide. He gave her his heart, fully, blindly, and in return, she gave him nothing but a smile. Ayanda knew how to use that love. She spent Jumo's money like water. She traveled whenever she pleased, attended the most expensive spas, and dressed in clothes flown in from other countries. Meanwhile, Jumo stayed home, showering her with affection and gifts, hoping his love would eventually win hers. But Ayanda's heart belonged elsewhere, to Like, a man who once worked as a driver for Jumo's late father. Like was wild, bold, unpredictable. Unlike Jumo, who was stable and calm, Like gave Ayanda the thrill she craved. The only problem? Like was poor, but Ayanda didn't care. She used Jumo's wealth to fund their secret affair. She would pretend to go on solo retreats, only to spend days locked in Lake's arms. She bought him fine clothes, expensive watches, even paid his rent. The more she gave him, the more he asked. And Jumo, he stayed clueless, or so she thought. Whispers had reached his ears. Friends, family, even the house staff had noticed Ayanda's strange absences and frequent lies. But Jumo refused to believe it. He told himself that if he just gave more time, more love, more attention, she would come around. But fate had other plans. On the night of their third wedding anniversary, Jumo decided to surprise Ayanda with a private dinner. He had been away on a business trip, but returned early with gifts and flowers. He arrived home smiling, only to find the house cold and empty. Ayanda was gone. He checked her wardrobe. Some of her clothes were missing. Her favorite suitcase wasn't there. His heart sank. He tried calling her, but she didn't pick up. That night, something shifted in Jumo's spirit. The suspicion he had buried for so long now stood at his doorstep, staring him in the face. He remembered Like, the old driver his father once trusted, a quiet man who vanished from their lives after the funeral. Jumo had no idea that Like was now much closer than he thought. Fueled by pain and desperation, Jumo drove across town to Leke's tiny bungalow. He parked across the street, hands gripping the wheel, heart pounding in his chest. "Please let me be wrong," he whispered, but the lights in Leke's home were on. Shadows moved behind the curtains, and then he saw her, Ayanda, in Lek's arms, laughing. Jumo's eyes locked with hers through the window. For a second, no one moved. Ayanda's smile faded. Like froze. Jumo started the car and sped away. His heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. Tears blurred his vision. Betrayal burned like fire in his chest. "What did I ever do to deserve this?" he whispered, slamming his palm on the wheel. He didn't see the truck. A massive lorry, its brakes failed, came flying down the road. With a horrifying screech and a crash loud enough to shake the night, the truck smashed into Jumo's car, flinging it off the road and into a deep ditch. The world went black. When Jumo opened his eyes, everything was white. He was in a hospital. Machines beeped. His head ached. His legs were stiff. Nurses moved quietly in the background. Where am I?" he muttered. A soft voice answered from beside him. "You're safe. You were brought in after an accident." Jumo turned his head slowly. Beside him lay a woman. She had kind eyes and warm skin. Her hair was braided neatly, and she smiled gently at him. "Do I know you?" he asked. She smiled. "Not yet, but we've both been through something." Jumo stared at the ceiling. The betrayal, the accident, the heartbreak. It all came rushing back. He closed his eyes, and from that moment on, everything began to change. When Ayanda rushed into the hospital ward the next evening, she had no idea what to expect. She hadn't seen Jumo since the accident, and now, with her heart pounding, she stepped quietly into his room. He was awake, but his eyes, they were blank, cold, empty. Ayanda forced a smile and moved closer to the bed. "Jumo," she whispered. "It's me, Ayanda, your wife." Jumo stared at her in silence, his face expressionless. He looked her over like she was a stranger. Then he asked something that shook her to the bone. "Who are you?" Ayanda blinked. "It's me, Ayanda, your wife," she repeated, her voice rising slightly, but Jumo slowly shook his head. "I don't know you," he said. I don't remember you." The words hit Ayanda like a slap across the face. She staggered backward, trying to understand what had just happened. "How can you not remember me?" she whispered. She reached out to touch his hand, but Jumo recoiled. "Don't come near me," he said sharply, eyes narrowing in confusion and fear. Ayanda stood frozen, and in that moment, the truth became clear. The accident had taken more than Jumo's strength. It had taken his memory. But Ayanda didn't see tragedy. She saw opportunity. If he didn't remember her, then he didn't remember their marriage. He didn't remember her betrayal. He didn't remember Leek. To Ayanda, this was a blessing in disguise. She left the hospital that night not in grief, but in strange relief. No more guilt, no more hiding. She was free to live as she pleased, still married to Jumo, still spending his money, and still in love with Lika. Days passed. Jumo remained in the hospital, slowly recovering. Ayanda continued to play the role of loyal wife to the nurses and doctors. She smiled, brought fruit baskets, and held his hand in public. But when no one was looking, her heart and body belonged elsewhere. At home, she sold off some of Jumo's most valuable possessions, including their wedding rings. She handed the money to Lika, who promised to buy them a house in another town, far from Umala. Ayanda knew Jumo wouldn't stay clueless forever. She had to act fast, secure her future. Before the past returned, doctors encouraged Ayanda to help Jumo recover his memory, show him photos, play old music, revisit familiar places, but she refused. She didn't want the past to come back, because the moment it did, her lies would unravel. And so, Ayanda continued her double life. Devoted wife by day, deceiver by night. Meanwhile, something unexpected happened in the hospital. Jumo, still weak and foggy in his mind, began talking with a woman in the bed next to his. Her name was Lola, a warm, gentle woman recovering from a hit-and-run accident. Lola wasn't like Ayanda. She spoke kindly. She listened. She made Jumo laugh, something he hadn't done in days. She told him stories, helped him walk slowly around the ward, and reminded him gently that he was not alone. She even tried to talk to Ayanda. "Your husband seems like a good man," Lola said one day. "He needs love and patience to heal." But Ayanda snapped. "Why are you in our business? What are you, his new side chick?" Lola's smile faded. "I'm just trying to help." "Help?" Ayanda cut her off, her voice sharp. "Help him forget me so you can replace me? Listen, busybody. Mind your own scars." Lola blinked, stunned. She walked away quietly, but deep down she knew something was wrong. There was a coldness in Ayanda's eyes, a darkness, and it made her heart uneasy. Meanwhile, Ayanda continued to plot. She returned to Jumo's family mansion one afternoon and headed to his late father's private study, a place she rarely entered. The room smelled of wood, leather, and old secrets. She began searching through the drawers, looking for hidden cash, documents, anything she could use. Every move she made was one step closer to burying the truth. But what she didn't know was that truth has a heartbeat, and no lie stays buried forever. Back at the hospital, Jumo sat by the window, staring into the sky. "Do you think I'll ever remember who I was?" he asked Lola one evening. She reached for his hand gently. Sometimes the heart remembers what the mind forgets. And somewhere deep inside Jumo, something stirred. He didn't know what it was, but it felt like a shadow waiting to step into the light. There was one room in the great mansion of Umala that Ayanda had never dared to enter. Jumo's late father's room. Before he died, Chief Bodunrin had locked the door himself, and Jumo had warned her many times, "That room stays closed, forever." But Ayanda could no longer resist. She believed it held treasures, heirlooms, documents, valuables that could buy her freedom. And now, with Jumo lying in the hospital, unaware of who she truly was, the time had come. Ayanda slipped quietly into Jumo's bedroom and found the small iron key hidden in a velvet box. She walked to the forbidden door. It creaked open slowly. The smell of old wood and dust filled her nose as she sneezed loudly. The room was untouched, just as Chief Bodunrin had left it. Thick silence hung in the air like a warning. It had been years since she stood here. She remembered the last time, clearly. The day she visited Chief Bodunrin when he was deathly ill. That day had etched itself into her memory like a scar. He had warned Jumo, "You'll only marry that girl over my dead body," and just as he said, he died a few months before their wedding. Ayanda had been relieved. She knew Chief Bodunrin had never liked her, and she knew why. He could see through her. He knew she didn't love Jumo, that she was only after the family fortune. She never imagined the old man had left anything behind. But as she moved through the room, her eyes landed on a small wooden chest tucked in the corner. It was unfamiliar. Locked, excitement surged through her. She searched frantically through drawers, bookshelves, and cabinets. After several minutes, she found a small bronze key hidden inside an old prayer book. Her fingers trembled. She opened the chest. Inside were stacks of papers, certificates, documents, sealed envelopes, and then a folder with her name on it, Ayanda. A chill crawled down her spine. She opened it. It was a private investigation report. Chief Bodunrin had hired someone to dig into her life before she married Jumo. Page after page revealed her secrets, her fake employment history, her debts, her affair with Lika. The former family driver Ayanda's face turned pale. Then she saw it. A handwritten note from Chief Bodunrin, dated 3 weeks before his death. "If Ayanda ever betrays my son, she walks away." With nothing. Her knees buckled. She gripped the desk to steady herself. She kept reading them and found another document. Jumo's inheritance contract. Her eyes widened. The clause was clear. If Jumo ever filed for divorce based on infidelity, or if there was proof of betrayal, Ayanda would be stripped of all benefits. She would walk away from the marriage empty-handed, not a single coin. Ayanda's hands began to shake. She thought back to the day of the accident. The moment Jumo saw her wrapped in Lek's arms, his broken face, the spinning car, the crash. She had laughed once, thinking his memory loss was a gift, but now the stakes had changed. Suddenly, her phone rang. She stared at the screen. It was the hospital. Her heart began to pound. She answered slowly. "Hello?" The voice on the other end was calm but direct. "Ma'am, we just wanted to inform you, Jumo has regained his memory." Ayanda's whole body went numb. Her phone nearly dropped from her hand. Her breathing slowed. The walls of the room felt like they were closing in. She ran to the window, gulping for air. Then she called Liki. "He remembers," she shouted. "He remembers everything." Liki didn't waste time. "Ayanda, listen to me. Pack whatever you can find. Cash, gold, jewelry. Meet me at my house. We leave tonight. There's no time, he added. Hurry. Ayanda hung up the phone, grabbed a large bag, and began sweeping valuables into it like a woman possessed. Watches, rings, foreign currency. She didn't even bother to lock the mansion door behind her. She drove like a mad woman through the streets of Umala, her mind spinning in chaos. One hand on the steering wheel, the other dialing Leke again. I'm on the way, she said breathlessly. I have everything. Good, Leke replied. I'm waiting. But when she arrived, something felt wrong. The gate was open. The front door was slightly ajar. Her steps slowed. Lek, she called. No response. She entered the small apartment. It was a mess, drawers open, chairs moved, clothes gone, abandoned. Leak! She shouted again, fear crawling up her throat. Leak! Still nothing. Ayanda dropped the bag and began searching. The rooms. Her voice echoed through the empty space. The man she gave everything to, the man she was willing to destroy her husband for, was gone. Let me go, Ayanda pleaded, her voice cracking with fear. But Leke didn't even look back. The man she had stolen for, lied for, sacrificed for, had turned his back on her like she was nothing. She tried to run, but the two men with Leke moved to block her path. Suddenly, freeze! Drop your weapons! A thunderous voice echoed through the house. Police. Uniformed officers swarmed the building. Chaos broke out. Lake and his men attempted to flee, but it was already too late. Armed officers tackled them to the ground one by one. Ayanda fell to the floor, trembling as an officer untied her. Her breath came in short, panicked gasps. She had nearly died, nearly lost everything. How did they find me? She whispered. A familiar voice answered from the doorway. Lola. She stepped forward, calm but firm, arms crossed over her. Chest. I did, she said, locking eyes with Ayanda. I followed you from Jumo's house. I knew something wasn't right. I told the police everything. Ayanda's face crumbled. She had lost her husband. She had lost her lover. Now, she was about to lose her freedom. Officers pulled Leek and his men to their feet, chaining their wrists with metal cuffs. Then one turned to Ayanda. You're coming with us too, Mrs. Jumo, he said coldly. We have a lot of questions for you. Ayanda's knees buckled. Years of deceit, manipulation, and greed had caught up with her. Her kingdom of lies collapsed in mere hours. As the officers led her outside, cameras flashed. Reporters swarmed. The story spread like wildfire. Across Umala Jumo had recovered his memory, and he had seen it all. Weeks later, Ayanda sat in a cold, silent prison cell. The grey concrete walls felt like chains around her. Gone were the silk bedsheets, the private jets, the glittering diamonds. Gone was her name whispered in exclusive circles. All that remained was the echo of her past, the betrayal, the greed, the mistake of loving a man who never truly loved her back. Leek. She had tried to control everyone. Now she couldn't even control her own future. Meanwhile, Jumo filed for divorce. He let Ayanda face the full weight of her actions in court. The case exploded across the country. Newspapers labeled her the greedy wife. Radio shows debated. Her betrayal and online headlines screamed, billionaire's wife jailed for fraud and betrayal. And Leke, he was also in prison, but unlike Ayanda, he had accepted his fate in silence. No escape, no more games. Back in Umala, Jumo rebuilt his life one quiet day at a time. The betrayal still hurt, but his heart was healing, thanks to one woman, Lola. She had stood by him in his weakest moment, not for gain, but out of kindness. She made him laugh again. She reminded him that not all love was a trap. In time, friendship turned into something deeper. One warm evening, Jumo held her hand and asked softly, "Will you marry me?" Lola smiled, her eyes glistening. "Yes," she said. And that was how Jumo found peace again, in the arms of a woman who didn't want his riches, only his heart. Their wedding was small, but full of joy. Family and friends gathered to celebrate real love, love that had been tested and proven true. Lola was everything Ayanda was not, gentle, selfless, and true. She didn't chase diamonds, she held hands. She didn't beg for status, she gave loyalty. For the first time, Jumo felt what he had never felt before, a love that didn't need buying. And so, the lesson of this story is clear. The love of money is the root of destruction. Greed is like a bottomless pit. It can never be filled. Chasing wealth at the expense of loyalty, humility, and love will only end in ruin. Ayanda had everything, but she wanted more. Now all she had was regret. True wealth isn't gold or diamonds. It's peace, trust, and a heart that knows how to love.